Well, the number of migrants illegally crossing the English Channel is at a record high. On Monday, 430 illegal immigrants crossed the Channel, the highest daily record. And the number who have now crossed into the UK is now around 8,700 up to this July. 7 months of the year already, which is higher than the total for last year.
These record figures coincide with the backing of the new Nationality and Borders Bill in Parliament, which will see the government taking a tougher approach on illegal crossings. Well, 2 days ago, Home Secretary Priti Patel announced the deal with the French Interior Minister, agreeing that Britain will give the French £54 million to increase patrols on the beaches in northern France and for new equipment to better detect smugglers. But French authorities that have now said they will not be stopping migrants at sea. The French politician representing Calais said the French have no legal basis to intervene. Well, with us to discuss the continuing crisis is Rear Admiral Dr. Parry, who is a former Director General in the Ministry of Defence. Good morning to you. So the French are saying they will not intervene at sea, but presumably they're going to cooperate more on land. What do you make of this?
Well, what I make of it is that the French have lost control of their offshore zone. They're incapable of patrolling and intercepting trafficking at sea in their territorial seas. And I think we have to accept that certain French politicians and elements of the state are complicit in illegal activity. All of this, I'm afraid, is down to the French. They're more than capable of patrolling their own coastline. The surveillance technology exists to do it. And it is simply a case of enforcing cross-channel protocols and international law in relation to what's coming off the French coast. There's a limit to what we can do once people are at sea. If they put themselves in a situation where they have to be rescued under international law, any country, any agency of a government has to intervene to help them. But I must stress that this is down to the fact that the French are failing to stop people getting to sea, putting themselves into a dangerous situation. And of course, if there's a tragedy, it's entirely down to the French being unable to control their own offshore zone.
What is this £54 million that the government has pledged, which is in addition to the £28 million I think they pledged to France, which they gave to France in November? I mean, what do you think the government are actually expecting France to do with it? Because, you know, I don't have much faith, to be honest, that even after this money going to the French, that we're going to see reduction in the number of migrants crossing the Channel. It's already at more than twice the rate it was last year. I mean, what's this £54 million going to do you think?
Well, it's supposed to encourage, shall we say, the French authorities to take more action, to increase patrols, to increase the amount of technology. But frankly, those people who have a view of British history will think this is rather like Danegeld that we used to pay in the 10th century to stop the Danes actually reaching us by sea. And frankly, the more we pay, the more that will be demanded. We have to say to the French authorities, both at national and local level, you have to undertake your duties. And I'm afraid sort of shilly-shallying around what they think the law is quite inadequate here. If people were smuggling drugs or they were imposing modern slavery in their offshore zone, they'd be very quick to intercept these vessels. They're not doing this with cross-channel migrants, and we have to put more moral and political pressure on the French to do their duty as a modern functioning state. I'd expect this sort of behaviour, I'm afraid, in an offshore zone of a failing state, not a modern state in Europe. We have to be much more robust politically, diplomatically and morally on this front.
And what do you think, you know, failing, you know, as you say, the French aren't doing a very good job in sort of curbing this issue. And, you know, it is the case that we are having record numbers making it to the UK shores. And so they almost become our problem, so to speak. So what should, you know, the government be doing? Because Priti Patel, many will say she's failing too to get on top of the issue. So given that they are coming here and we sort of take responsibility for them, what should the government be doing here?
Do you know, I think the government, including the Secretary of State and the officials there, are doing the best job they can, but they're hamstrung by international law. If the French continue to dump people into the Channel, we have no no alternative but to rescue them. They're in danger most of the time. They don't have the right equipment. They can't get back to France because they haven't got the petrol. And so blaming the Home Secretary and officials is fairly nugatory, to tell you the truth. The responsibility lies entirely with the French. Now, one of the things I've suggested in the past is that we take migrants to a place of safety, which is not the UK. We can use ferries and liners and process them through that. My key suggestion would be that they have to take the indirect route. We have to accept that these people are queue jumpers, that there are reasonable ways of getting into the United Kingdom. These people are paying traffickers a lot of money to jump the queue. And I think all of us know in the United Kingdom we don't like queue jumpers. But it's more than this. We've got a state right next door to us that is failing in its international duty, not just in relation to us, but also in relation to the people that they're dumping in the middle of the channel.
Well, it may be true that France are behaving in an immoral way by allowing people to make this difficult and dangerous crossing, but are they not perhaps acting in a rational way? If people are leaving their country, they have very, very little incentive to bring back economic migrants or refugees or whoever it is who are trying to get to Britain. They're causing quite a problem in Calais, and I know that in previous years we've seen enormous numbers of migrant camps, and it may be in the French rational self-interest to just think, you know what, being shot of this problem is no bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think every country could do that. And if France wants to continue to behave irresponsibly in that way, then we have to actually approach them diplomatically, politically, in other ways. These things have penalties. But the fact of life is, unless France and Britain together cooperate to stop people putting their lives at risk in the Channel, we will have a tragedy soon. And that the responsibility for that tragedy can be firmly pushed back to the French for allowing this to happen. If things affected national security in France, the Channel would be alive with French patrol boats. And from what I hear, the French authorities afloat are perfectly happy to cooperate with the British. This is a political issue at national and local level in France that is actually affecting everything we do in the Channel right now.
Rear Admiral Dr. Chris Parry, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm sure that we can now let you go to take that phone call or whatever it is. No worries at all. I particularly enjoyed.
Somebody probably complaining about what I just said.
I particularly enjoyed your reference to Danegelt, actually, in the 10th century comparison, because of course we could go after the 16th century comparison and just take back Calais, but maybe that's a question for another time. Thank you for being with us today.
You really want to take back?